Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, I am doing my week 3, day 2 recap. We are going to be talking about the games of today. Uh, Tenki sadly can't edit this one before it goes live, so we're going to do our best to make it into a seamless experience. Excel versus Astralis, starting off with the draft Excel, following the classic line of logic with the Sejuani Elise Rakan ban. The strange thing here is that I think versus Astralis specifically, I think people should be open-minded to leaving Rakan open. I understand why people think Rakan is so strong, but I think Astralis have a clear identity of wanting to play bot in a way where they are strong early, and Rakan struggles into a lot of the common matchups that you see. Nevertheless, they went for Rakan ban, and Astralis just slam the exact same recipe that we saw against, of course, Vitality, Varos and Viego. I think in the context of what we're seeing on our screen, Varos is going to always have both Prio, and Viego can fight Maokai wherever he is. Tricky thing about playing Maokai into Viego is that you will never be able to go first into river. If you have a face check Viego, you will lose, and Viego will be dominating the early game. Maokai can only hope that he can give information and vision, and then that his laners are strong enough for him to, of course, take space. Right? He needs to do it as a supportive player instead of being the aggressor. So, like, if Maokai ever is going to fight 3v3, it needs to come from the initiative of his laners having prio and having better conditions, right? Viego is going to be stronger in river, stronger level 3. The lanes need to help Maokai contest. Exa follow up with Heimerdinger Jace, which is strange, right? All things considered, it's like maybe they had Jin planned with Sivir Caitlyn. These are some ADs you can pick into Varos. But Heimerdinger Jace lock in against Astralis is very disrespectful. It's like the Irelia will come in. Both Finn and Leader are massive Irelia players, and Heimerdinger is very bad against Irelia because Irelia can just Q on your Heimerdinger turrets. It's like half of the champion doesn't work for Heimerdinger because you're just giving Irelia gap closers by putting turrets. It's the equivalent of playing Ivern into Rengar, you know? Irelia is just going to stack for free and use you as a jumping launch pad to access you and the rest of your team. So this Irelia comes in, and Leader is a master of the Irelia matchups. Finn is also playing it really good. So Astralis take the simple approach here of just saying, yo, we're going to actually just flex the Irelia at the last and then just follow with the Irelia into the Jace no matter what. I was thinking Excel here when they pick Kesante, maybe there's some room for them to try to match Kesante into the Irelia and then play Jace into Jax. Maybe those matchups would be better, but it didn't happen. So Astralis, sure they're full AD, but their composition is just designed to snowball the game as soon as possible. Like Irelia's conditions in this game will decide the game because the enemy champions are really fucking bad against Irelia. The reason we see Leona ban in 4-5 is because it's the only engaged support that is, of course, doesn't have that it's such a bad interaction against Heimerdinger. It's like Heimerdinger, of course, can't block your engage, and he can just eat through you. And the W of Leona is very strong against the turrets too because it has a block effect, meaning it reduces the base damage of abilities, and I think Leona is probably the best engage support. The reason why I like Leona ban here is because the enemy already is showing Irelia Viego. You want to make sure that you remove the champion that is going to make their 3v3 much stronger. So I think Leona ban is good here. They pick Ashe. Ashe Varo is very strong. It is what it is, Ashe is good into Heimerdinger. No, like Leona is decent into Heimerdinger. It's like Heimerdinger can get ulted by Leona. Leona W is good into it, and then E is good into Heimerdinger. So yes, Slugling, sorry to say, you're a little bit clueless. It's just that Leona as well, 3v3 mid, is just super, super strong. Like, especially against a champion like Jace, you want to deny like the engaged champs. Leona ban is good here. The Gwen ban, maybe not so much, but I understand the reasoning. It's like XL just want to pick a tank top. and then they want to deny like the AP champion top, but they just picked Jax on 5. Key thing here is like Irelia against Jin, Jace, Heimerdinger, really, really good. Tanks are fine into Irelia, right? CC is good into Irelia, so I'm not going to comment on Maoka and Kesante, but this is like a very good Irelia game. So Strahd is very heavy AD, but as long as they're ahead of the curve, right, with the Ashe and the Varus, it's not super easy to itemize. It's like you kind of want tenacity, you kind of want to have access to certain things. If Irelia is ahead of the curve and they can burst one target and Viego can just get a reset, then they will win the fights, right? That's how Astralis composition is just designed. So we continue. The second layer of why this Ashe pick is so good is because Sivir, Caitlyn out, Draven out, Xayah out. It's like, sure, maybe here you can just pick like Ezreal and play Ezreal Heimerdinger. Maybe that's something that you can do. But I like the fact that they pick Ashe because they're just denying another AD carry for the enemy team, right? So they gave a lot of incentives for the enemy to actually pick Jhin. In this particular game, if we look at some of the highlights, I think the main thing that stood out to me was just this mid dive. Like this was absolutely beautiful. Just the setup, leader crashing the cannon and Jace not contesting the wave at all. He crashes the cannon here, and here he just has 4 stacks, and then the timing of this flash of Viego is just really, really neat. It's like here leader managed to keep his stacks, and then he E's, and then he biscuits. And then, of course, he just finds the Q after the biscuit, and they get a clean kill here with a very nice Vampiric Scepter base. And there was a moment in the game where 113 kind of overstepped, and he definitely went too far, as we see on the screen here. He's pressuring Dire because he spotted Malka on top side, but he definitely overstays, loses a lot of HP, and now Jace can actually hover down. And what ends up happening is that a double kill comes flying. So yeah, Budage got a little of a return. I really, really dislike the itemization choice here for Jace. I think it's only good to go the Go Drinker Jace if it actually changes your matchup, but it doesn't change your matchup here. Go Drinker Jace doesn't make you beat Irelia. You just need to find ways to itemize full damage because when Maokai CCs, you actually need to threaten lethal on the Irelia. It's like having that sustain and HP from Go Drinker is not going to help you at all. You just need damage. So I think Go Drinker is only acceptable if it actually changes your matchup on side and you actually win, So we continue. Regardless, this game was definitely just Irelia montage, Irelia masterclass. Here we see one of those interactions, right, with Irelia against Heimerdinger. It's like, look how she's just dashing around and moving around, and it's all because Heimerdinger is placing his turrets. It's like, look, he Qs, and then he Qs again, and then limit flashes, but you still get damage from Irelia Q even if you flash it. Of course, this ends up in leader dying and trade for 1-for-1, I believe, in the end. I think maybe Viego kills 2, if I remember correctly, just R's, and then... actually, never mind. Actually, it does happen, the fucking beam. Good Heimerdinger mechanics from 113. Nevertheless, this was pretty much just a leader and 113 masterclass. This was nice. Finn with the 1v2. We continue. I believe we had a fight on mid here. Look how bold leader is, dude. Look at his HP. It drops so low. He gets the Viego resets. Leader is super, super good on Irelia. It was a wonderful game. I praise leader a lot, so I'm going to take this moment to praise 113. I think his Viego is fucking good. I think mechanically 113 is super, super good. And if you put him in positions where he can leverage his strength and he has prio in his lanes, he's very, very good. He really, really takes over games completely. I think this is a player to watch out for. And I think definitely in terms of jungle performances, the split, I think that we have been in a situation where he should be in the conversation of top 3 jungle in terms of performance in the spring split. We continue to the next game. Mad Lions vs SK was an absolute bangaroo. Xayah's first pick, Zeri and Vias to follow. I thought this was kind of strange that Vi gets picked because Xayah is also really good into it, right, already. And then Lee Sin and Lissandra, it's like still same line of logic. Very hard game for Vi to play. But blinding Lissandra is kind of bold. Silas into Lissandra is a classic pick. You know, this is like one of the champions that you fear when you pick Lissandra. But Silas gets locked in, and Silas with Lissandra ult is a dream. They follow up with banning Nautilus Rel to set up the Lulu support. The Soraka ban looks to me as if, if Danny doesn't pick Lulu, we're going to pick Lulu ourselves. So we want to invite the Lulu and then pick Pyke. Sure, maybe here you can decide to pick Leona or something, but I think, it's kind of crazy. Now, in my mind, if I think of Pyke, you're giving Silas Pyke ult, you're picking Pyke into Vi, you're picking Pyke into a Sion that's coming up. Hilly is just the only player that can make that work. This is a Cannon before the buff and the rework, so I was surprised to see Cannon here. But it seemed like Mad Lions just went for like full confidence boost. Let's just pick what we're good at, draft, right? And sometimes that's more important than trying to figure out what is the best. I think in the end, good gameplay just trumps all. On the red side, SK, I think they had a pretty decent composition, but they just needed to be a lot more aware of what they needed to give up in order to stay in this game, right? I think that this is usually something SK is SK is a lot better at, but today they couldn't survive the onslaught of Mad Lions. So this game was pretty much Healy completely dominating the early game. I don't know why the quality is so bad. I'm at 1080p. But the main thing here is just, even before this dive, look at the HP condition of X-Kick. Look at the HP condition of DOS. They are in complete shambles. They are really, really in a mess. It's also the fact that he has no heal DOS, no flash on X-Kick. And the only trade-off is Healy's flash and the Ignite. So Elioya is just pathing into bot, and he's coming in here to collect, We let the situation play out. That's the main thing about Pyke. It's like if you pick Pyke in the composition, most of the time it's going to be shit for the composition. It's like Pyke is the equivalent of picking Elise in the jungle. It's like you better fucking get value in the early game when you pick Pyke. He definitely delivered. This was a big mistake. I thought here, oh shit, this game is going to be rough already. The enemy got a kill, and it's looking like it's going to be a dangerous situation. But Mad Lions kept finding ways to keep momentum in the game, and they found kills, and eventually they snowballed completely out of control. These kills on Pyke, of course, generate a lot of gold with the ultimate and so forth. And I think that SK played without patience. I think if they slowed down the game a little bit more and paid attention to each other a little bit more, I think that this would have been a lot harder for Mad Lions to close. But there were many situations where they are way greedier. Here, for example, Certus needed to just press R before preemptively. He gets one shot, and then Sion tries to puff in, but this Niski, of course, has a stopwatch, and he dies too. A lot of unforced errors. I think Mad Lions were very sharp and played group together, and I think this is where we could give them a lot of props. They were always on the same page, and in the end, I think that this is where we could find some improvement. Here, Silas TP gets cancelled by the Pyke. We see it on the little pip screen. Miskio is also under the bot turret. They chase into this because a lot of tools were used, but I remember here that this was a pretty decent outcome for SK. Their positioning in the bushes. Here, I think that the play from, of course, Mr. Karzi was definitely a game saver in terms of the position. If he just dies there without taking someone back, it could have been a little bit worse. Here, still, right, it's like you see the condition of the game, and SK can still, put themselves in that mindset that, oh, we just want to slow down this game, but they just kept fighting. I think they could have played a lot more defensive because the Soul is not coming anytime soon, and you just need to posture to defend Nash. And I think that's entirely possible. They managed to kill Karzi. Niski gets pushed out. I said that them engaging was bad in the moment where the engage was actually good because Karzi didn't have spells and he got cut off, so it kind of worked. This was a moment where I think DOS just plain and simple, he just pushes forward. I don't know why he's pushing forward because the enemy hitting Sion, I think it's not real and his team can actually come to support him. But the fact that DOS dies so freely here is definitely a problem. And that was kind of the story of the game. Here, Markun has no smite. They finished the Nash, and the game just in my mind became accelerated because Mad Lions were of course trying to press their advantage and leverage their comp, but I think SK took a lot of fights when it wasn't necessary. I think in the end, I think Mad Lions played a very good game. They were very coordinated, very different from the other, games, which I think just comes down to the fact that they played champions that they're very comfortable with. And I think the lesson is always good gameplay trumps all. Good gameplay trumps all. If you're playing champions that you're comfortable with, maybe in the grand scheme of things, if you're playing against teams that are very precise and they can do both at the same time, the teams that are very comfortable on the meta and play very good, you're going to have a hard time against. But this is a moment that, in the end, I would have to say that Mad Lions just showed up with a comp that they're very comfortable with and played better than SK on the day. SK definitely need to sharpen, their late game decision making, especially against some of the more experienced teams. Because now they lost 2 games in a very similar fashion. If you think back to the G2 game as well. Followed by Koi vs BDS, Blitzcrank, Zaya, Olaf, Koi bans, which is unique, I guess. Annie, Caitlyn, Nar. Nar as a follow-up ban to Olaf, which is the answer that, of course, Adam prefers. Vi first pick, followed by Zeri Sejuani. Zeri, of course, will not have a super good time into Vi, but Sejuani is pretty decent into Vi because Vi doesn't ever want to ult Seju, and Seju wins most fights against her. And on red side, you can usually find ways to build synergies together with Seju. Varus Ashe gets locked in, and then Nautilus on 3. So Ashe really needs to build advantages early game against Nautilus. Otherwise, in the end, you're just a kind of a piece of shit that dies if you get hooked, and you're just an arrow bot, right? And usually, like Zeri has cleanse, Seju tanking arrows. They have counterplay into the Ashe arrow. So it's very important that you get a lead with Ashe. That's why, like, a lot of teams dropped Ashe, is because that pressure is kind of too hard to succeed in. Okay, just as Fate Jace, which is banning the solo lanes that Koi has been successful with. I like that type of respect. Darius Silas gets banned, and then BDS just pick Azir to deny that from Larson. Imagine if teams did this against FNATIC. That would be an interesting tale. Deny Marek Brazdalini from picking Azir. They follow up with Corki, and then Renekton blind, and then Mofa gets picked. So, here, Koi, they have a composition where early game, I feel like the lack of cohesion here can be kind of problematic because Vi can't really leverage the advantage of Ashe and Varus to create anything meaningful. Very hard to dive with Vi, in my opinion. There's definitely better junglers for that. Like if you compare it to, for example, Astralis, they always play Viego with Varus and they pressure really, really hard. Renekton and Vi is also not the greatest combo. And then you have Corki in the midst of all of this that is going to lose Prio into Azir. So I feel like as a whole, Koi's composition, I think that when you have champions like Varus and Ashe, you're so committed into one direction that you need to kind of follow through all the way, in my opinion. But when the enemy locks in Azir, maybe it's a little bit too hard to find champions that are going to, achieve just that, because Azir is a little bit strong in the early lane phase, of course. Maybe you can pick like Victor, but in the end, I don't hate the Corki, right? It's like you're playing Corki, you can poke, you're going to find ways to scale, and why Corki is good into Azir is because you can deny his shuffle play in order to pressure you with jungle, right? So I don't mind it too much. Malphite gets locked in on 5, and if you think of Malphite here, the enemy does have a full AD comp, so he's very happy to play into it. BDS might be magic damage heavy, but Sure, maybe Varus can buy like Wits End, Corki can maybe get a Hex Drinker. I don't think it's that super big of a deal. Once again, Koi, like they need to kind of snowball, and then later maybe Corki can do something. BDS are just happy to scale, very similar to the game they played against, of course, Team Vitality. I just want to pull up the draft because I think it's practically the same. Yeah, the difference only is Elise, and then Lulu, of course, into Lucian Nami. But Azir Malphite for 5. Okay, so BDS, I think the key thing here is just Varos and Ashe. If we look at the game, what happened is early lane phase was quite beneficial, and then Trimby is just like basically Nautilus has no flash. You're kind of fucked in the lane phase. But then Trimby is just punching a ward here for no reason at all, and you can't make mistakes like this if you're playing a lane matchup like that. This is a disaster. Like Zeri was collecting kills in the 3v3s and in the fights, and it comes down to the same conversation as before, right? It's like BDS is the composition that is going to scale good into the game. I think, of course, Zeris can just buy BT, and she has lifesteal, so the poke will be less relevant. I think BDS just played a strong early game. And the main mistake here for BDS in terms of them closing out the game, just to give some more context around what BDS can work on, is of course, the decision making around Nashor. They, I think in this particular case, I can't showcase it so well, but I believe that they did play it very safe because of the context of the Vi engage, which I think is perfectly fine, but I think they could have played around a little bit more with their TP, right? And potentially push on 2 waves at the same time. And if the enemy tries to engage into you, I think that you just hard win. So I think they could have played around with that a little bit more. Later, there was a situation where they sent Azir to base TP in order to end, when in reality 5v5 they just win very hard. I think also here, like, this is one of those moments where I think that potentially BDS could have also mechanically played this better. But yeah, I think if Azir just sticks around here, I think they just win 5v5, so there's no reason to find complications. And then Nuke as well, he pushes away the enemy minions, so his minions also went towards those minions. It's kind of funny. But a good look for BDS, same old from Koi, like they seem to be struggling with what they should play, and they're fishing at the bottom of the barrel. I don't know what's going on with Koi. It's not a good look. The tier list after this week is going to be a banger, that's for sure. We had Vitality versus Team Heretics, which was, a game. Draven, Rakan, Vi, Caitlyn, Annie, Jace, with Zeri Prio, perfectly fine. Team Heretics follow up with Jinx. I like that Jinx is showing up more and more, especially coming into 13.5. I think Jinx as a champion is doing well, and I think you can combine her with many different supports. So I like that about Jinx. Maybe it'll be harder to pick on blue because you can't counter support, and I think that's going to be weaker for Jinx. They go Sejuani as well, followed by Wukong and Lulu. And then Nautilus on 3 into the Zeri Lulu. I think this is a fine matchup for Zeri Lulu. I think it's not a problem at all. Gragas Azir gets banned, and the follow-up here is that they just slam Malphite and Sylas. The reason they pick Sylas, right, is because they're trying to defend the Malphite pick. I think LB is quite good into Sylas. Like, sure, Sylas has some decent ults with the Seju and the Nautilus, but blinding Sylas is not something that we see so often. So anime picks Jax, they pick Malphite into it, and Malphite into Jinx without Thresh or any kind of support system. Together with Wukong, they can definitely get on top of her and deny her a lot. But they have to pick Sylas, right? Because if most champions that you would want to blind anyway for Vitality, I think Sylas can be picked into, and if you give Sylas Malphite ult, you're gonna just hate your life. So I think the Malphite pick is perfectly fine. And then, of course, The LB on 5 is just a champion that does well into hard commitment, does well into Silas. I don't mind the LB too much, but of course the issue is just playing LB together with Sejuani, so that kind of sucks ass, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe here you can consider, you know, I don't know. It's like picking LB with Sejuani just kind of blows. Like you're picking, it's hard to find a champion that is going to fulfill all of those conditions, right? A champion that is not weak against Silas, not weak against Malphite, not weak against Wu. It's hard to hit all those conditions. I'm trying to think of what else you can play. Maybe you could play Akali. That could be something, right? You could play Akali maybe, but it's not really something that Ruby plays. The other one is maybe Ari you could play, but Ari with Sejuani is also not that great. Yone into Malphite. I don't think you can play Yone into Malphite and Wukong. I think that's quite terrible. I don't think that's something that you want to do. I think, yeah, it's a tricky one. Just Sejuani jungle makes you a little bit more limited. So I'm not going to hate too much on the LB. Dylan, we have to go Vayne. So thank God Vitality recruited Upset, because like Upset put on his fucking carry pants and completely dominated this game because they were in trouble. They were in big trouble, like in insane amounts of trouble. Evi somehow got Monster far ahead. They dove top together with Sejuani, but Upset just stayed in the pocket of this game. These are the type of things why people praise Bo, right? It's like not a lot of players are going to find this opportunity because aesthetically, right, you see Team Heretics posturing onto this turret as 4. And already the fact that Upset, he's posturing so far forward, he knows no one's going to fucking touch him. He can E and he can bait the enemy abilities. But here they're just 3v4. They could just 3v4 them. They one-shot the Jinx. This is just like look how Upset postures, okay? In this moment. He postures, he bonks the enemy team with his champ. He postures so far forward. He's definitely like leveraging and literally leveraging his E so fucking hard here, which is such a big deal, right? It's like Upset is a player that really gets the most out of his fucking abilities, and Bo just finds this opportunity to go on Jinx, and the Jinx was kept so interested in this situation due to how Upset played. This is really, really good. Yeah, I don't want to hate on Neon, right? But it's like we had games like this for Vitality when Neon was playing and he couldn't deliver. He couldn't deliver. And not many ADs can. It was definitely something. Here, Perks just fucked up. I have to say, like Perks has been very uninteresting to me in the last games that he played. I don't know what's going on there, but we keep saying it on this channel. We are allowing it for a little bit longer because Perks has a lot of LEC bucks. He has a lot of credits in the bank, and that's okay. So we don't mind it. And the key thing for me is Vitality still suffer from some of the issues that they did suffer from before. Of course, one big symptom and one big problem that they had was that the AD carry position just didn't have enough firepower. So that for sure Upset solves. But in terms of the mid-game decision making and some of the other gameplay aspects of Vitality, of course, remain the same. So this is definitely something that Vitality need to address and need to work around and do better. I think that Photon probably played the worst game I've seen from him in a long time. He didn't play the fight so well, and he was, not putting himself in a dominant lane position. It's like in the end, he's laying against Jackson playing Malphite, so it's no big deal, right? This was also such a gorgeous fight played by Upset in terms of how much he gets out of his champion, He's posturing forward, and in a fight that is so difficult to execute, I think that he plays beautifully again. The tricky thing about this fight, right, is that Photon didn't have ult, and Here, Upset tried to squeeze a little bit too hard, and now finally the ult comes off cooldown. And the beauty of this still is that the fact that blue side did in fact get the Drake, right? Yeah, Silas is on TP. I think Photon just walks in a little bit too fast. They find a chunk, and the Malphite doesn't have much MR here, so LB literally one-shots him. Just the upset show. Just the upset show, guys. That is all. Just the upset show. They put his whole team in a backpack. Unfortunately, sometimes his team didn't want to jump into it. So shit happens, And it was a trade for the Soul for Nash, which is perfectly fine in both directions. Depends what you get out of the Nash, of course, but Mercer getting caught leads to a circumstance where the Nasher definitely gets slowed down by a lot. I feel like Burks has died in this particular spot so many times. Like he dies here so fucking often. But maybe it was all a bait. Actually, I don't remember this fight. I apologize. It's 2 a.m. At some point, Team Heretics just do Team Heretic things. They become very disjointed and they become very unaware of how to play deeper states in the game. We saw this against Koi. We saw this in last split too. Their idea of macro just completely turns into nonsense. And Vitality kept cool in those circumstances and eventually took the victory. Like I just, for example, here, right? It's like it's kind of funny, the chase. Jankos is definitely an elo hell. Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between Zeri players. They are definitely not the same. They are definitely not built the same. I think Upset is by far the best Zeri player in the league. I think Hansama's worst champion is probably Zeri. So Heretics Wunder and Veteo next split. I think Veteo really needs to build up his stock value again. Like I personally didn't find him super attractive as a player after his Misfit stint. I needed to see more. He definitely needs to prove himself again. Brother, while you awake, I'm doing my LEC recap, Ender. LEC recap, my friend. I just finished watching EG, and now I'm bouncing. I'm just watching Upset Carry. This brings us to the final game. I think everyone was waiting for this. I'm going to note the timestamp. 34:05. G2 versus FNATIC. G2 versus FNATIC. I think, how does FNATIC keep doing it? FNATIC, they are waving their mind control wand and they're getting really, really dream drafts. Dream drafts, really. So, we have Nautilus, Jace, Caitlyn. So, first and foremost, Fuck off with the Caitlyn bans against Fnatic. They played it once and they're never gonna fucking ever play it again. I assure you. Okay? I assure you. They played that one game and they're never ever gonna play Caitlyn again. Draven and Isaiah. So we have Vi first pick. Okay, Vi first pick. You deny off the enemy and then you set yourself up for Zeri. I don't mind that at all. When I think of Hansama, I don't think of Zeri though. Like Zeri is definitely not what comes to mind. And then here, the follow-up, the fact that you don't want to pick Lulu here over Renata Glask is kind of strange. You know? They went Renata Glask, and I don't think it's that great. It's like it's fine into Rakan, but I think Lulu is good into Rakan, and I think it's just better together with Zeri, right? I think it's just much better. Another way that you can approach this is you can just commit all the way into this idea of having a very strong bot lane matchup into Rakan, but they went for Zeri and Renata. I just don't associate Hansama with Zeri, really. I don't like Hansama on Zeri. We have a follow-up of Sivir. Very nice. You know, I really, really like the AD carry peaks of Fnatic in the recent games. They played Zaya. In this game, they played Jinx. I really like that. Why try to shape Reckless into something that he's not? These are the champions he does well on, so let him fucking play them. How could you know they won't play Kate again? What do you mean? Even when playing Vitality, they banned Kate? Yeah, I think it's fucking troll. Banning Kate? Let Fnatic play Kate, and I think that you will win. You will actually win, you know? You will actually win. I think here, if you want to play Zeri, pick Zeri Lulu, it's good into Rakan, or you just commit all the way to this idea of fucking Rakan by picking Varus and like, you go like Varus Heimerdinger and you just play full early game, you know? I don't care about you're just saying. You're just wasting time. Because it's like we have enough information to make the claim that I'm making. Sivir gets picked. Rakan Sivir into Zeri Renata, I think is perfectly fine. I think this is something that Rakan and Sivir for sure can survive. And if you can survive with Sivir Rakan, you're really fucking happy. Because these two champions are going to scale wonderfully. Here, Fnatic banned Talia and Aurelion Sol. And once again, I'm so surprised. I'm so surprised that Azir is open. Fnatic 4-5. Azir is open. Fnatic 4-5. Azir is open. You pick Nar over Azir. You have Larson on your team. Team Heretics, okay? They picked Azir, but Talia is open while they have Vi. Like, I don't want to discredit Fnatic because they are playing decent, you know? They're playing some decent League of Legends. But they've had some one-sided drafts, like completely one-sided drafts, you know? Props to Nightshare, props to Hiva, props to Shavy Baby. Shaves. They are smurfing it in the draft department because this is a slam dunk. This is a slam dunk. This is a slam dunk. And there is obvious solutions, right? Key thing is, I liked Fnatic's adaptation here with the Jinx. Of course, the enemy picked Nautilus away, right? And you just slammed the Braum. You need to decide to ban the Nautilus. And they went in this direction, right? But here, the fact that once again you get Azir and you want to play Sylas into Wukong, Sivir, Azir, that's a very tough game, right? I'm not a strong believer of Sylas into Azir. I don't think that's easy. And humanoids, bro, I am not exaggerating when I say that humanoid might be the best Azir in the world. That's how good his Azir is. It's like you have to deny him Azir. Plain and simple. Wait for 13.5, then you don't have to ban Azir anymore. But these best of ones, come on. Come on. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. Obviously, Azir got some nerfs here and there, but I think it's definitely something that you know, it's definitely something that you need to target. You know, maybe there's something hiding behind this. Azir is going to be great. Maybe Marek just plays Oriana. Maybe Marek just plays Victor, and he's still going to carry. I'm not saying that ban Azir and you win the game, but it's definitely something that when you walk into a draft scenario with Fnatic, it's definitely something that is really worth exploring based on what they've shown, right? And I feel like these champions like Oriana and Victor, they are a lot less impactful. A lot less impactful. Because Azir dominates early, and then he pressures with gank, and he can actually make plays, and he scales good. That was the whole problem of Azir and why Freak wanted to rework this champ, right? He fucking this champion is too well rounded, right? And then we have Silas Kesante. Like Kesante, I don't know what the fuck you want to do with Kesante blind here. I think G2 have gone in this direction where they're like, okay, Bibi, you're just gonna play tank Swas. Let's just see how that works out. Bibi played a little Cho'Gath. He played a little Dragoon. Like they are putting him on full tank duty, you know, which is okay. But you're playing Kesante into Azir, Sivir, Rakan, like all of these champions are just completely vibing. You know, they are playing on distance, and Kesante is just going to get kited like the doggy is. And then Oscarinin picks his Jax. So Oscarinin, evidently, right, really happy to play Jax, really happy to play Olaf. I think these are the champions that you should look to potentially target, if anything, right? I think that's something that we need to pay attention to Oscarinin. Very happy about Oscarinin, right? I think his Olaf game was fucking fantastic. You know, I said this on broadcast too. I think Oscarinin, week 1, he was a liability. Week 2, he was a passenger. You know, he was kind of whatever, you know. It didn't fucking matter what he did in the game. He just kind of fucking won them anyway, right? Like the Jax game, he was ahead, but I don't think he fucking did shit in that game. GP game, he was getting dove, and he was just ulting and banging, right? And then this weekend, bro, the Olaf game, he was dodging ganks, keeping ahead in CS, pressuring, playing the fights well. This game as well on Jax, he was fucking confident, really fucking good, right? The main questions I have for Fnatic, right? They addressed the AD carry question. They found some silver spots. They found some jinx spots. I like that, right? The main thing for me still is Advian has been doing well on melee supports. What happens when he has to play the range supports again? Because that's where he sucked ass. That limitation might hold them back, right? But a lot of other supports suffer from the same problem. So it's not only an Advian problem. Another thing, right, is that what the fuck happens when teams actually ban Azir against Fnatic? Every 4-5 game, somehow he gets a gorgeous pick, right? And this is something that I'm sure Fnatic need to be aware of, while somehow the rest of the league isn't. So it's something that, of course, they are aware of, and it's something that they can work on. An additional layer, right, is that Fnatic, with 3 out of 4 wins, okay? 3 out of 4 wins, they played online. 3 out of 4 games they played online, which is just another question. I'm not saying for a fact that this is going to be a problem because I don't know the psychology of the majority of the players in Fnatic, right? I know Humanoid, I know Ivan, and I know these 2 players don't give a fuck, right? But it is a point that is worth asking because in the end, the one game that they played on stage that Fnatic did win, this is where Oscarinin played pretty poorly on the GP, right? But this might just be the perfect storm for them, right? This momentum, this positive momentum of beating G2, beating Mad Lions, beating Koi, you know, these are legendary teams in Europe, right? This positive momentum might just be the perfect launch pad for Oscarini's career, and he's gonna be fucking confident for the rest of the games he plays, right? I'm just raising some important questions. And the truth is, Fnatic might have all the answers, right? They might have all the answers. But I have to point to the facts too, that Fnatic did in fact have giga draft gap in the last 3 games that they won. And then the Team Heretics game, I think it's like arguable, right? I think it's arguable, right? Honestly, this game, they also have pretty draft gap, right? So, Fnatic deserve praise. I think Razork is playing really fucking good, right? Razork's playing so fucking good. And I'm telling you guys, this guy is so sick right now. He has fever. He's suffering from tonsillitis. You know, this was really, really fucking good. He's playing really solid. Oscarinin playing really fucking good. Humanoid playing really fucking good, right? So there is still some positives that you can take into other aspects, right? So I'm hyped for Fnatic. I think this is a good look, right? This is definitely a good look. Yeah, Fnatic players this split, I can tell you, they have been really fucking unlucky because they've had like this disease rotating, right? Maybe there's some ways for them to protect the players more and like isolating players and so forth and doing things better. But they basically had the same disease circulating in the team, and then it's like 1 week, 1 week one player is sick, and then 1 week the next player is sick, and so forth. And let's look at some of the moments in the game. I think G2 only stayed in this game because they managed to actually steal Drakes. Otherwise, I think they would be in big trouble. Let's look at the highlight reel because Oscarini was absolutely smurfing. This was a pretty good play from the enemy team. I didn't think that they would actually find lethal. Before this, they had pressure on Silas. It's like, you have Vi Jungle, okay? Vi Jungle can't support you that much. Wukong and Azir are very strong into Silas. It's like, it's super, super hard uh, to play Silas, I think, in this game, honestly. I have to admit. Oscarini was vibing. We had the Drake steal. This sequence as well. So basically here we have the Drake steal right at 12 minutes, which is very painful. Infernal Drake, that's like 2,000 gold in the pocket that he just generated. Here, very good play here from Oscarini, chunking the shit out of Zeri at first, flashing in, trading Van Sama flash. Liked it a lot. The fight continues and extends, and Oscarini already pushed out the enemy. He pushes forward, plays with his E. I like this too. Very well played by Oscarini. Well, once again, it's like it's just such a hard draft to play. But Fnatic also played super good. They were connected and they didn't take much risks. And I think Oscarinin really played out the fights well with Jax. It's like there's a difference between being a Jax that is fed and strong to the Jax that actually is fed and strong and actually carries the game. But Razuk played also a pretty damn good game. But on the flip side, this was also one of the worst G2 games I've ever seen. Here as well, I don't know. This just reeks of desperation from G2, right? I do agree that their draft doesn't have a lot of angles, but here it's just that the enemy has control over mid. They're going to cross into bottom first. This is not like the best look for G2. Yeah. It's one of those things, right? It's like you could have picked Lulu instead of Renata, but Mickey really doesn't seem keen to play Lulu or Yumi, right? He really doesn't want to play these champs. And now the game is just over. Completely over. No winning that. Fnatic completely unleashed. I respect it. I respect it, fam. I respect it. Honestly. Crazy. Razork fixes it. Razork fixes it, guys. Don't worry. Razork fixes it. Expeke! 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 Yeah, I wish the Fnatic players a speedy recovery, right? Speedy recovery. But I want to be fair and also raise those questions, right? I think Ivan's form is looking good. Humanoid's form is looking good. Reckless is finding himself in his usual role. I think that's good. Oscarine is playing better and better. We just need to see them on the stage. You know, I want to see those same performances from Oscarine on stage. I want to see what happens when Humanoid's champions get a little bit better targeted in the 4-5. I think the main thing is for me when I think of Humanoid is Talia, Azir. I think of LeBlanc as well. I think in the end, it's like the biggest thing that stands out to me is just Giga Draft Gap, Giga Draft Gap, Giga Draft Gap, and respect Shaves, Nightshare, Hiva. You guys are smurfing it, really, really mind controlling and outplaying the enemy coaching stuff. Let's look finally on the prediction side of it, right? Fnatic kind of lucky Jinx is OP on playoff patch. No, I don't think so. I think all of the teams are going to play Jinx anyway, so I think that's perfectly fine. Let's look at some of these. Let's be honest, these are pretty straightforward, right? BDS is going to stomp the shit out of XL. BDS is looking fucking fantastic. Fnatic versus Astralis could be fucking contested, but Astralis is looking very sharp in the early game. I think on red side, they are very dangerous to draft against. Jinx isn't even strong. You can't use Flash on Jinx. That's pretty funny. You annoyed me at first, but then it was pretty funny. I feel very irritable right now, so deep into the night. Fnatic versus Astralis, I think this is a potential upset, but I think that Astralis should be the favorite coming into this one. Fnatic has beaten some tough teams on the road to this position, so definitely, if you're on the Fnatic hype train, I respect that, and I believe that. I definitely believe that. I think Astralis still looking sharp. I think that they have a lot of depth in terms of their support pool and AD carry pool, and I think this is where Astralis can cause some damage. I want to see Astralis fucking ban Azir, or I want to see Fnatic go with the route where the big Azir 1-2-3. Honestly, that could be interesting. So let's see how that pans out. Probably they're gonna play from home again, right? Because they're still sick. We wish them a speedy recovery, the homies in Fnatic. But I am so fucking happy to see Razork and Humanoid play so well, because I have been talking about how good they can be individually, and the fact that they're playing well together is very nice. Because this game, in the end, they killed Sylas over and over again, right? They killed Sylas twice, and they got advantage for Wukong. They got advantage for Azir. That's a very fucking good look, I want to fucking celebrate that, SK versus Team Heretics, I think SK is going to win. Mad Lions versus G2, I think G2 is going to win. Vitality versus Koi, I think Vitality is going to win. In terms of the standings, how that's going to end, we're not going to have any crazy tiebreakers. Mad Lions beat SK today, so that puts them, in line. Fnatic is secured. Koi is secured. All of these teams are secured. We only have situations where maybe XL and Team Heretics can cause an upset, and then maybe we have tiebreakers there. If there's a tiebreaker, Team Heretics is going to win any head-to-head. I think, in the end, Team Heretics you know, they beat XL, they beat Mad Lions. So if there's any head-to-head, they win that, but it'll always result in a tiebreaker. You know, I think XL is completely dead. I think this team is definitely, the worst together with Team Heretics. I predicted at the beginning of the season that we're going to have two new teams in the bottom two, but instead we only have one new team, and that's Team Heretics. I doubt anything's going to change. I feel bad for Jankos. But you know, it is what it is. Someone mentioned, that XL should have slammed Malphite. The issue is that Irelia has flex, right? And you can send then Irelia into the Jace, and then you can just pick an AP champion top into Malphite, and Malphite will suffer, So think about this spot here. So XL, if they pick Malphite here, like they would have to adjust their bans. Like you could pick Sylas on 5 and play Sylas top into Malphite, and it's completely free, by the way. And then the enemy team has a Sylas with the Malphite ult, you will really regret that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with XL, right? I don't want to judge them so hard because, they're going through illness and sickness. It's like Team Heretics definitely had some games they should be winning. XL definitely had some games where they should have been won. But it's like just two teams that don't know how to finish games unless the enemy team does unforced errors, And that's it. The LEC spring season has been fucking exciting. FNATIC is locked, yes. FNATIC is locked. FNATIC is locked. These teams cannot catch up to them, right? Because they're 2-6, 2-6. So 4 wins is locked. Do you think G2 is the best team? Yeah, I still think G2 is the best team. I would always, currently in the state of things, I would go for them in a best of 3. The most concerning thing is how bad Vit looks. Yeah, it's like it's gonna be fucking funky who is sent to MSI. Because currently, who the second best team is in Europe is super giga unclear. BDS, Astralis, Vitality, I think definitely are in the conversation. SK, I don't know. SK has looked really fucking sloppy recently. But I'm really liking what I see from Astralis. I like BDS too, honestly. It's like, let's be honest, right? It's like the game Vitality versus BDS. That was a big fucking throw. But I think Vitality did a lot of things that game that made them into the better team. But BDS have this resilience about them, and they are mechanically talented. I am excited for BDS, There's still a world as well where Mad Lions fix their shit, And they don't need to make it that far in order to qualify to MSI, so that can still happen. But this LEC recap already has been long. I'm super excited for FNATIC. I like blessings, man. Blessings up, It's like, I'm happy to see them do well. Shu is so underrated, to be honest. Yeah, I think his spring split was much better than his winter split, for sure. Shu has grown as a player. And I think Nuclear is also doing better and better. I think the other 3 were always insane. And I think it's impressive to see a different side to Labrov as well. He's playing the Blitzcrank. He's playing the Nautilus. And I always expect, Labrov for a ranged enjoyer, But he's showing many different colors. I think that's really, really cool. But I think this is a good place to end the recap and to let me go to sleep. Why do you think Jack Spectre is struggling? Wasn't he considered better than Exakick and ERLs? Was he considered better? I don't know the story of that. I think Exakick is doing fine. But, I think Jack is doing fine, but I think his team is just overall worse. So you don't have those same opportunities. I think Exa is good, but I don't think he is in the conversation yet with Upset and Hans Sama. Mercer is the worst support in the league. Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. But okay. Once again, guys, these are best of ones. Things can change fast. We're going to play on a new patch. So, of course, things are going to change very fast. Yeah, Reckless is finding himself, you know? When I see him play Sivir, when I see him play Jinx, when I see him play Zaya, I'm happy. And that's cool. They are sharpening more and more weapons, which allows Reckless to be a sleeping giant, in the games. And I think this is where Reckless is the happiest. But okay. Okay. If you sneeze during this video or during this broadcast, bless you and bless your face. I love all of you. Have a good night, guys.